Major natural disasters, damage assessment teams of engineers come in to investigate building and structure safety. They also consider if building codes and state regulations are sufficient in certain areas. Dr. David Prevatt is a professor in the Engineering School of Sustainable Infrastructure and Environment at the University of Florida. He has led damage assessment teams that evaluate commercial and residential structures after major tornadoes. He joins us now. And Dr. Prevatt, are you heading to Kentucky to assess the tornado damages there?
Good morning. I am not going to Kentucky myself. My team is on the ground. The Structural Extreme Events Reconnaissance Team, and we will be identifying the failures at commercial areas as well as residential areas in three priority areas, as well as along the entire track of the tornado.
And the video that we just saw from Isabel Rosales' report from Mayfield, Kentucky, and then she went on to say that another town has 75% been obliterated. It looks like a bomb went off there. What does an engineering team document after tornado damage on this magnitude, if you will?
So I am a wind engineer as well. I started doing this for tornadoes back in 2011 following the Tuscaloosa and Joplin tornadoes that hit Alabama and Missouri respectively. And we have come a long way in terms of the forensic engineering that we do after these events. Let me just say this at first. The experience of your reporter is what any human with empathy will feel once they're looking at these disaster areas. It is important to understand that the losses or the damage is due to something that was not designed for these very strong storms, and they have been repeated over and over again. What we look at from the structural engineering point of view is, are there those connections between every component of the buildings that are likely to help them hold together? So in other words, is the shingles attached to the roof? Is the roof attached to the walls? Is the walls attached to the foundation? And then is the whole building contiguous and able to stay together? In many of these events here that we're looking at today, we will not find much evidence of that. What our approach is how do we learn from this? How do we learn from, 10 years ago we had this, but today we have a building code that has tornado resilient features in it, that ASCE 722, it's available, and going forward, it would be available for people to improve the designs of their structures.
So it's very important that we can learn from this. Now, structures in different parts of the country, sir, have to meet the codes in that particular state. But as climate change has shown us, tornadoes, hurricanes, and even earthquakes are not limited to specific areas anymore. How can codes be set across the country that prepare any structure for major disasters?
One of the things I don't really get involved in the climate change question just yet, because regardless of climate change happening today, tomorrow, or the next day, we have 1,200 tornadoes that will happen in the United States every year. Okay? And we can do better. Many people are working on the problems of redesigning and fortifying their houses. And so the notion that we had prior to having these tornado design building codes was that the tornado was too extreme and too rare and too small an event that needed to be considered for design purposes. Today, many people in Kentucky will realize that if all of our structures were designed for tornado-strong forces, the extent of the damage will not be what we are witnessing today. Okay? So that means
Sir, I appreciate you. Sir, I appreciate
Yep.
you sharing your insights with us and your perspective on what's happening. Very important information coming from you. Professor at the Engineering School of Sustainable Infrastructure and Environment at the University of Florida, Dr. David Prevatt. Thank you again, sir, for joining us. Coming up on DC Today, explore